Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another Diablo 3 video. Today we're going to be covering the Season 24 zBarb, so this is very similar to what we have seen previously for the zBarb builds. The only difference is, of course, is that there's now an ethereal weapon, so we're just going to walk through it and talk about a little bit of the item change, but most of this is the same as what we've seen before, so let's get into it. The items that we need in this build are much like we've seen in the previous season. So it is going to use two-piece Savages with three-piece Raekors with the Ring of Royal Grandeur. So what I am using is I'm using the helmet and the hands for Savages, and then I'm using the shoulders, chest, and legs for Raekors here. So basically what this does, the two-piece Savages makes our shouts twice as effective. So that of course is Warcry and also Falter. And then for the Raekors, Furious Charge refunds a charge if it hits only one enemy, and then it gains every rune. So basically it just helps us zip around the map as much as we want. So of course we need that for scouting and mobility and stacking when we're doing pushes or when we're doing speed runs. So that's what makes us the most effective, is just running around like that. We also have a few item variations. So we of course want to be wearing the Flavor of Time to have the pylon effects last twice as long. For our bracers, we either want to use strong arms for when enemies hit by knockback suffer increased damage. So that of course is affected by our stomp. So we want that, or we want to run Nemesis bracers depending on what the other Z support is running. Our belt, we want to run Chilanix Chain, so using Warcry increases movement speed for you and all allies by up to 40%. Additionally, we could also run Pride of Cassius, which increases the duration of Ignore Pain by up to 6 seconds. And basically, whichever belt you're not wearing, the other one goes into our cube. So I'm wearing Chilanix Chain, so then of course I have Cassius in the cube. We of course want a Ring of Royal Grandeur. That is in the cube, sorry. I got excited when I saw the red. So here is an Oculus ring. So of course we're wearing an Oculus ring to generate those circles with power for our DPS to stand in. So I got lucky and I have Primal here, so damage is increased by 85% while they're in the circle. The Band of Might is for our survivability. So after stomping or charging, we get up to 80% damage reduction. After that, I only have 68% on here, so I need a better one. I am using the Storm Shield. So I'm using this because it's got reduced damage from the melee attacks, and I have a decent one here with some vitality and whatnot. And I'm using Illusory Boots from the bounties that you get. So here, this helps me move unhindered through enemies. So when my stomp or when my charge is down, I can just walk through and get out of trouble and continue on. The new difference is that we now have an ethereal weapon. So what we are doing, from what I've seen from the meta, there's two different affixes that you would like to have on your ethereal weapon. So we're using the Jimmer Shred. And so basically the one I'm using here is, and the reason you use the Jimmer Shred is because the last property here above the affix is killing an elite pack increases movement speed by 30% for 7 seconds. So that helps us with our scouting to get out in front of the group and go start stacking again and scouting the map. And we're using either Messerschmitts, so reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you slay an enemy, or we want to use Engium, which reduces the cooldown by 8 seconds for 15 seconds after killing an elite pack. So this again is just to help us get out in front of the group and start stacking. The meta seems to include a necromancer or a witch doctor. So if you're running with a necromancer, you don't have to run the executioner, but if you're running with a witch doctor, you need to put on the executioner, or at least one of the series supports do. So either the demon hunter or the barb will have to run it. And so that's the new weapon that we're using instead of the pig sticker. So this is pretty cool. It gives us a little bit more utility here. And then the stats on it doesn't really matter that much because we're not focusing on killing anything. You would hopefully like to get a good passive, but I'll cover that soon. So here though, even if you don't get one of the main four that you're using, it's okay because really we just want that cooldown reduction so we can start charging around the map and start stacking and getting out in front for our group. And then and so yeah, that covers all the new I guess, build which we'll be using in season 24. It's really not that new. Really, all we're doing is swapping out the pig sticker for our new ethereal weapon, the Jimmer Shred. For our gems, so currently what I'm using is the gem of efficacious toxin. Sorry if I butchered that. So basically, poison all enemies, hit for 90. Well, this is because it's rank 150, so an X% of weapon damage over 10 seconds. But mainly, it's more for the secondary point when you get it to 25. All enemies you poison take 10% increased damage from all sources and deal 10% less damage. That's the real reason you use it. I'm also using Gogok of Swiftness. So this is just basically to give me dodge percentage as well as to give me a little bit of CDR. Because again, the secondary bonus if it's level 25 or higher is gain 1% cooldown reduction per stack of Swiftness. So that, and it stacks up to 15 times. So that just gives me an extra 15% of CDR so that my stomp, charge, ignore pain, like all my shouts, everything's up a little bit faster. We're also using esoteric alterations. So this is again, so we gain 60% non-physical damage reduction. We're weak versus magic, so that's pretty handy. And also while below 50% life, your resistance to cold, like basically all the resistance are increased by 75%. I'm also using a Gem of Ease in my pig sticker that is just for extra experience for the group. You could also use their like a life per hit if you need it. I like the Gem of Ease just because Paragon is king in Diablo, so it never hurts to get a little bit extra XP. When we look at the cube, so it's a little different than what it used to be because before we would just run Measure Smiths or the Executioner. But again, because of the new ethereal weapons and how the season is going, we either want to have Ingium here or we want to have Measure Smiths. And of course, if your group doesn't have a Executioner, then we'll run Executioner in here. And then for the armor, we're going to run either Pride of Cassius or Chilanix Chain. So again, that's for the movement or the increased duration of ignore pain. And then the last ring slot is either Ring of Royal Grandeur, Oculus, or your Band of Might, whichever ring is your worst one, you'll put into the cube. So ideally, if I had a second Ring of Royal Grandeur, because it's just a default, reduces the number of items needed for the set bonus by 1. And the stats on it generally don't matter as much for the zBarb. I could instead be running the Band of Might to get a maximum 80% damage reduction instead of the 68% that I currently have. But I don't have an extra Ring of Royal Grandeur yet, so that might be something that I'll look into. For our skills, we're going to do Ground Stomp with Wrenching Smash. So basically that stuns everything for 4 seconds and brings them all together. So this is what we need for our Pixel Stomps. We're going to do Furious Charge. So there's 2 different charges you could use here, or sorry, runes that you can apply. So we can do the Cold Rush here, which so all enemy hits are frozen for 2.5 seconds. So this was just a little bit of extra CC. We can also do the Merciless Assault. So recharge time is reduced by 2 seconds. For every enemy hit, this effect can reduce the recharge time by up to 10 seconds. But basically, it lets you fly from one side of the map all the way to the other. You can also, if you really want, you can have Dreadnought, which stores up to 3 charges as well. But most people will run Merciless Assault. I had Cold Rush on just as an extra CC for the wizard that I was running with. We of course want Ancient Spirit with Rage Flip, so this helps us when we're grouping up mobs. You throw your spirit, brings the mob towards you, helps create the groups that you're going to stack and stomp on for your trash killer. We of course want Threatening Shout with Falter because it causes enemies to take 25% increased damage, and with our Savages set, it's going to double that, so they take 50% more damage. Ignore Pain, Mob Rule. This is probably our most important ability. So this is what gives everybody the immunity to crowd control for 5 seconds plus the increased time due to Pride of Cassius. And then War Cry, this just increases everybody's armor. And so again, and dodge chance. And so of course, this is also doubled by the Savages set. For our passive skills, I'm rocking Nerves of Steel. So this basically is it's our second life. So instead of dying, we get 15% of our life back, and we take 95% of reduced damage. Generally speaking, I found I didn't really need this, but I just kept it as an insurance policy because if you go down, the group loses their scouting ability, the crowd control on the trash, as well as the grouping mechanic as well with your stomps and your spears. So I figured it was better to stay alive for the group, so I would take that. Relentless is again just while you're below 35% life, all skills cost less, but it's more important. It's the damage reduction. Taken is reduced by 50%. You do spend a lot of time not at max health, so it is good to have a little bit of a extra mitigation along the way, because again, you do not want to go down. Inspiring presence, so this just the duration of the shouts are doubled, and also it causes a bit of a life regen there with 3% of maximum life per second is regen for 120 seconds. So that just helps your group stay alive a little bit longer. Sword and board, so this is just while we're wearing a shield, we reduce all damage taken by 30% and reduce the fury cost by 20, but mainly this is just a damage mitigation for a little bit extra survivability. For stat priority, so my personal opinion is the stat priority is as follows: vitality, then intelligence, resist all, cooldown reduction, life per hit, and then for secondary we have pickup radius and global health pot life. So vitality is our number one stat because, and I'll just say this, so because once you hit level 70, basically from leveling, we gain enough strength that, and strength of course turns into armor, that we get enough damage mitigation out of that alone that we don't really need to spec into anything else. And also our main pieces of gear that we can't get away from are also going to have strength. So we're going to have more than enough strength to give us the armor damage mitigation that we need. So then after that, we need hit points, which, because we're going to be taking a bunch of damage, we need the hit points to sustain being hit. On top of that, our weakness really is just magic damage. So that is why intelligence and resist all are our second and third top stat, because intelligence translates into resist all. So that helps us against the magic damage. So on my particular guy, I happen to have intelligence on a few gears. So here I have it on my bracers, I have it on my shield, and I have it on one of my rings. So I try to stack as much intelligence as I can to build that resist all. After that, we want cooldown reduction because it's going to help our shouts get off CD quicker as well as our charge. And that is just key because we need to be able to shout as often as possible. Falter so that enemies take more damage, as well as ignore pain so that our RGK and Trash Killer are immune to CC effects. Life per hit is the last main stat, as I'll call it. So that's if everything has everything else on it, or if you feel like you've hit the certain thresholds that you want to hit for CDR and all that stuff, and you want a little bit more survivability, then life per hit could work. Get a little bit low, charge into a group, you're going to be back to full health. For secondary stats, we want pickup radius. So that's where we can pick up health globes or by 1 to 2 yards, or we want the global health pot bonus just for that extra survivability. So this concludes the Season 24 zBarb guide. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know below. We appreciate any questions, comments you have. We love discussing this kind of stuff with you. We love bringing Diablo 3 videos, so we really appreciate the conversation. As always, we also appreciate any likes and subscribes. And also, if you want, you can always follow us on Twitch. Good luck, everybody. Hope all your loot drops.